All right, we are live. We're sorry, guys. We were just having a chat backstage. We hope that everyone's doing well on this wonderful Wednesday. And we are here with you again from the Relationship Series. My name is Gina Spatero, and this is my brother Sam Spatero. And tonight's topic is bringing more joy and living in more joy in your life. And there's so many ways you can go about doing this. And in this moment, if you're struggling with creating a little bit more joy, or if you are, feeling fulfilled, don't forget to hit the like button if it's resonating with you. Because truthfully, knowing that other people are going through the same thing, it doesn't make you feel alone in this world. So on that note, how's your week been, Sam?
It's actually been a pretty good week so far.
Hmm.
Just trying to figure out how to stay in a good, joyful mindset with everything that's going on economically and with the coronavirus. So I think it's a perfect time to do a video like this.
Oh, absolutely, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it's all the way your perspective is too. It's not that you don't have to be smart about it, because I don't think anybody is actually saying not to be smart about it, but it's also your mindset around it, right? So I completely agree. Your wall looks amazing.
Thank you. Had it painted last week.
Yeah, it looks really good. Really,
Awesome.
really good.
And I think it really what it comes down to too. If there's just one quote that really sticks with me, and it's really good that we're talking about this topic tonight, is Tony Robbins says, the art of fulfillment, which we all try to live each day, or one day when we look back on our life is what we want to be, is that no matter what happens, you always live in a beautiful state. So the whole question
Mhm.
is, how do you do that despite what happens in your life? So those are some
Right.
things that are going to play into tonight.
Yeah, because I mean, there's so many factors that can bring you out of a joy state, right?
Yeah.
And on a personal level, it could be a health implication. It
Yeah.
could be something that's happening within your relationship, within your immediate family, within a friendship, within work. I mean, there's so many factors, and it's understanding the resilience in it all and how to pull that out of yourself, because everyone has the ability to. And I always say, you're going to be dealt a hand of cards, and it's what you make of it. What are you going to show for it? What hand are you going to play? Right. So I completely think that this is some good points that we can share with everyone today. So should we start?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the first one you said was changing the way you view problems. And I think this is so huge. And if you want to go deep into it, I will add some of my perspectives after that.
Well, no, absolutely. So changing the way that you view problems, how does that have a direct correlation to how much joy you're going to experience? Well, I think most of us believe that we shouldn't have problems.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the whole aspect of being human is we are imperfect.
Hmm.
And we all have problems when it comes to finances, when it comes to our relationships, when it comes down to career choices, or maybe you get to a point in your life where you're middle age and you feel like you have no purpose and you're not sure why you're here. There's so many different things that come up. Maybe you've had a health change or something that's going on. And the question is, you have this problem. What does it mean?
Yeah.
And really, what matters is, what is the problem? What is the purpose of it? And I could tell you, throughout my life, anytime I didn't experience joy, I wasn't feeling happiness, gratitude, is because I thought I shouldn't have had that problem. And I really want to get in on this with people when you're watching this, whether you're now or you're watching later, is that see the problem as something more or less in the line of a gift.
Mm.
So you really need to change your perspective. And so changing the way Dr. Wayne Dyer had a quote. He goes, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change.
Hmm.
So some key things here are, number one, problems are a key thing to help us to grow. So here are some things that I do now, whether it's with my business, my relationship, or any other things that go on in my life, is I kind of look at the problem like a blessing.
Hmm.
5 years ago, actually, so 7 years now that Jerry's been passed, a best friend of mine who passed away. And right after that, I went through a really, really hard time. And I was literally beating myself up every single day, and it was affecting my relationship. It was affecting how much connection I was experiencing with my kids. It was affecting how much like money I was creating in my business. And it really just came down to if I really look at it now, was I really just thought, why me? Why
Mhm.
did this problem come to me? And what helped me to transition to the other side and that got me through to where I am in here today is that I started to see that the problem wasn't necessarily for me, or the struggle wasn't necessarily, it was for me to go through it so that way I can make a difference one day in somebody else's life.
Mhm.
So changing the way you view your problems is see the problem as something that isn't necessarily happening to you. It's happening for you so you can experience life in a more joyful way.
Mhm. Yeah, and I agree, and I always say your lessons are your teacher. And if you don't view them as your teacher, then you're stuck in the whys, the unknowns. Whereas if you try and pull the whole lesson out of it, well, what is this trying to teach me? And it's getting out of that ego mindset where it's like it's happening to me and not vice versa for me, and if you can view a problem as it's happening for me, well, what is it for? What is it trying to teach you? What cycle is it trying to break? What patterns are you trying to not repeat? Because truthfully, that's a lot of the problem too, is that we'll continue to have the same problems arise because we're repeating the same pattern. We're responding the same way. And they always say if you don't like what you're getting, change your response, right? So, but I think that another thing that I read this week as well was when problems arise, people run from it instead of face it. And it will create more anxiety, more depression without knowing what you need to do to be the strongest version of yourself by facing it. And, we turn on that coward part of us because we don't want to face it. But the strong part of us that will bring the joy is understanding and facing it and asking questions. What was my responsibility? How did I play a part? What can I change? If I do this, this is going to be my outcome. And completely have to reverse the whys. So I know for me that was a huge lesson, and having to face it and ask why are certain things repeating in your life? And it's because your responses are the same.
Absolutely. So, in the context of relationships, I'm going to talk on a couple key points here. And
Mhm,
one key point is when it comes to children.
mhm,
So, I have three kids, a daughter who's 9, and two boys, 7 and 4. And when my daughter was younger, she used to get sick all the time.
right.
And she ended up developing a syndrome called PFAPA, which is a periodic fever syndrome. And so if you're in a relationship and you have some children that keep getting sick, and maybe you have different perspectives on how you go about it, well, I'll give you a perspective that I was kind of caught up in. So anytime this would happen with my daughter, I would always see the worst. I would always see the worst case scenario, and I would always want to rush out to the hospital. If
Mhm,
we were there and I didn't feel reassured, I'd want to take her down to another hospital and get some more reassurance, or I'd be Google searching or whatever. And it would drive me nuts because my wife didn't look at it the same way. And it
mhm,
would start to create problems between us and our perspectives, and more so from the way I was viewing the problem that we were dealing with was just the fact that, you know, when I would say, oh, we need to do all these different things, she had a very more relaxed
mhm.
sort of perspective where I'm like, there's a fire right now. We need to put it out.
Yeah.
And I had a turning point, and it happened more or less so when Jerry passed away. And I went through all those different things. And what I started to notice that I could feel more joy in the sense of peace when stuff like
Mhm.
this would happen. I could feel more optimism in the way that I would view the things that were happening. I could feel more connected to my wife and her viewpoints,
Yeah.
that she could see things in a better perspective. Not that this is the end, but rather it's always better than it appears, half glass full, not half glass empty. So if you are having struggles and you have children that are getting sick, or maybe you just have problems with your children and you guys have two different perspectives, I really challenge you, if you're the one that always seems to be getting stressed or anxious or really worked up about it, is really try to scale and say, you know what? How is this perspective serving me? How is it making me feel in my body, in my mind, with my partner, and what sort of blueprint is this creating for my child, right? So once you can start to see it in that perspective, you can start to maybe just take a little bit of a different approach and be open-minded to coming up with some new ideas, or maybe even taking on some of your partner's perspective so you can see it from a different way. Now, when it comes to problems in a relationship where you have different perspectives, different ideas, or maybe you're coming into an argument, well, for me, it was the I don't talk treatment. It was
Yeah.
I get angry, resentful, I want to get you back. And what would be the results of that? No connection, no communication, not talking for a day or two. And it almost feels like it's the end every time,
Hmm.
right? And I can tell you on a scale of 1 to 10, now that I look at it, and I'm not perfect by any means, but I have made a shift. But when I would do that, I had like a level 8 or 9 anxiety. I had like a level 7 or 8 where I was just like so depressed and disconnected. And I literally just decided one day that, you know what, if my kids were having the same problem, how would I want them to deal with it? And then
Mm,
how would I want them to be a role model for their kids? Because
yeah.
kids don't do what you say, they do what you do.
Hmm.
And so that was a turning point for me where I needed to view the problems that I was having in my relationship in a different perspective. And today we solve them so much more quicker. I literally about a month ago, we're engaging in a conversation. I could start to see that I was shifting to some old patterns, and I kind of stepped back and I took on the perspective of, you know, you kind of have to put your partner's needs before yourself when it comes to relationships, just like you do in your company. And I really just did that, and within minutes, I could see her points that she was coming across on. I could feel connected to her and her pain and misunderstandings. And right away she could see mine, and like that, it was solved and we moved on, and it was just so much more greater. So if I can just tell you, if you're watching this and you're having these problems, you need to see 10, 20 years from now, if you keep taking on this pattern, how much joy are you actually going to steal from your life? How much joy are you going to steal from your partner's life? How much joy are you going to steal from the experiences that you're meant to have?
Hmm.
We have one shot at this life, and you know, I don't want my ego or a bad way of viewing problems to, destroy that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. So the next one is, which I think it kind of ties into what we were just talking about, but updating your beliefs. And you're really good at this because, like you said, like normally you would do this, but you chose to do something different. What made you what was the pivotal moment where you're like, okay, something's not working anymore and I have to change it?
So the definition of insanity is to continuously do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. I
Mm,
mean, when you're in a relationship for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20, maybe even 40 years,
yeah.
and you're going at problems in the same way and you're getting the same result, which is on the bottom scale of the opposite of joy,
Hmm.
then you really have to decide and say, you know what are my beliefs about, what's happening right now?
Yeah.
What do I believe at my core? And really what your beliefs are is shaping how you see things, right? So why does this continue to happen? What am I believing? And once you start to dissect that, you know, there's so many different implications that design your beliefs, whether it's, from well, they say from the age of 1 to 8 is when your belief system is developed. So it's, at the home, it's family, it's the way you see friends, it's what you see on TV, it's so many different things. And you start to create this view of what things mean.
Hmm.
And that's what triggered me. I started to see that I was going down a road that I knew was not going to serve me, was not going to
Mm,
create more joy for me. And so I decided right there and then that I needed to update. And the question is now, how do you do that? Well, here's what I tell people when I coach them. You have a toolbox. You've been carrying it around for so many years. But guess what? You're not getting the results that you want. You're not fixing the problems. They keep turning up. They're rusty, they're old. It's time to put some new ones in and replace the old ones.
right.
So the question is now, How do you do that? Well, some things you can do is you can get a coach, someone that is either a relationship coach, a life coach, whatever it might be. Second, go on YouTube. There's tons of people out there that are highly successful. They're giving free information on the exact same things that you're dealing with.
Mhm.
Go to the bookstore. Maybe join some groups. Go to a counselor. Do something different to update your beliefs. And the only way you're going to do that is to take it from people who are actually living what you want to live.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And a lot of it is conditioned thinking, right? And it's like getting out of your head of what you know to be right. And it's really thinking what you know needs to be changed. Because like you said, it's very cyclical. And everything will show up again and again and again if you are not ready to change. And it's okay to kind of do some reflection. Like that's how we learn. We have to reflect and we have to evaluate and we have to and modify all the time as human beings. If one thing isn't working, you need to change. Just like, if they do some recalls on cars, they have to change the parts because it's not working. So, and it isn't an analogy, but I mean, it just holds true to our standard that we hold for ourselves. And sometimes it's not a high standard, truthfully. It really isn't. We hold ourselves as righteous when what makes us righteous? Change your beliefs or question them at least, you know, be like, okay, I do believe this, but is this conducive to where I need to be? Right. So, but
I
the
just, I
last,
just, I just
yeah,
want to add one more thing to that.
sure, sure.
A lot of the times we're not even aware of the fact of what our beliefs are shaping our relationships. And
Right.
the whole
We're not
question is we're bringing a lot of the beliefs that were taught to us. And what we
100%.
need to remember is what worked for the people that raised us or our grandparents isn't necessarily going to work with the person you're with. They
Right.
came from a different dynamic, a whole different belief system of what problems meant, and the things that they value. So what you really need to do is redesign your belief system that's going to serve the relationship that you're in.
Yep. I agree with you. Okay. Lastly, we have one of my favorites, gratitude.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So
So
go
I,
ahead.
I just I just want to say this. You know, Tony Robbins is a mentor of mine, and I refer to him very often. But he says, I coach billionaires who are depressed, who
Hmm.
are sad often and can't understand why.
Hmm.
Because he says success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
Mm,
And I heard a long time ago that you can't achieve happiness without first learning to be grateful.
mm,
And once you can learn to be grateful, then you can truly learn how to be happy.
right.
So the question is, we just started on this journey not too long ago, the whole thing about gratitude and happiness. Like, what does all this stuff mean?
Hmm.
And once you really start to understand that gratitude is this, it's waking up every day. And even though you're not the millionaire that you wanted to be, or your body isn't the way you want it to be, or maybe your relationship isn't the way you want to be, or maybe your family isn't the way you want it to be, but maybe you can just take a minute and say, what can I reflect on to be truly grateful for that I actually do have and am blessed with? Because,
Mm,
you had a one in, I don't know how many million, the chance to be you, to be
mhm.
on this planet. You could have been an ant or a bird, but no, you're you. So the whole question is start learning to be grateful for the little things. And when it comes to relationships, especially every day. So here's what I do before I wake up. Before I wake up and I allow myself to plant my feet on the ground, I think of 10 things that I'm grateful for about my wife.
Mm,
And then I go on about my day because any problems that happen the night before, the month before, the things that your mind wants to make you aware of, you're rewiring your brain. Like there's a new thing in neuroscience called neuroplasticity, where we have the capacity to rewire our brains.
yeah.
So you have that power. And our new brains, the prefrontal cortex, is where all the gratitude and happiness and the joy comes from. But we just need to learn how to use these tools. And gratitude is the way. So my question to you is, what are some things that you do maybe for yourself or in your relationship where you experience more gratitude?
I think for me it's understanding milestones, and it's paying gratitude for the little things that happen and they don't have to be so grand. And I know sometimes it's a conscious effort. Truthfully, it's like, oh, like this would be a great opportunity because I normally wouldn't say something in this moment, but I think that this would fill somebody's bucket, as a lot of people say, or fill them up if they were just to get some mention out of what they're doing. And not only is it, um, showing gratitude, but it's also a boost, an energy booster for them. There's so many chemicals that go through our brains when we're feeling good, and you could be that light and spark for them too, right? So, um, but I'm always a firm believer in gratitude for the simplest things, even at work. It's because I'm going to keep it confidential as to what I do, but I always teach it in a way that it's a pay it forward moment, without a monetary outcome. Because I think that's people get confused, right? And especially nowadays, there always has to be an attachment for gratitude, but there doesn't have to be. And I think that's where we get our ego mixed up in actually our soulful feeling of feeling good. So when it can come without conditions of being like, well, I'm going to do this and you do that. No, 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 no. It's not like that. Like for example, I broke my toe a little while ago, and I was very grateful that, I had somebody beside me who like kind of took care of me, and I definitely showed gratitude towards that. And um because it's those little things when someone shows up for you when you need them, and sometimes when you can just be needed in that moment too, right? So I think we have to get out of our heads as to when it should show up, and it should just be in a daily conversation and daily moments, but it needs to be authentic as well, not forced.
No, I agree. And I think what if people can understand, especially if you're in a relationship,
Yeah,
people think happiness is achieved by external factors. But
right.
it's been proven in Western societies with the depression rate and mental health issues that don't
Hmm.
exist in the East,
Hmm.
that that is far from true. The things
Right.
you accumulate in your life won't bring you joy or happiness. They
Yeah.
might for a short period of time, but like anything else, it wears.
Yeah.
Gratitude creates internal happiness.
Yeah.
And once you do that, then
Yeah.
happiness is achieved everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So, especially if you're in a relationship, really just start learning to be grateful for the little things that your partner does. Be grateful for the fact that you have somebody
Hmm.
to share your life with, because there are people that struggle to even, or find a date, let alone keep a person
Yeah.
around. But that is the antidote.
Yeah.
It's go within. Gratitude, I'm telling you, if you're in a relationship and the sparks aren't flying, it's because you do not appreciate them anymore.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you that
Yeah.
you obviously don't appreciate the things that you have to offer as well.
100%. And I also think, if we're talking relationship specific, the lessons that come within a relationship or within your relationship, you can either be grateful for them or resentful,
Totally.
and I think that you have to understand the difference and what you're holding on to with both aspects. Resentment will only create a disaster within your mind and your body and your soul. Whereas if you're grateful for the lesson, you can see how you can improve, or the lesson between the both of you, then that's where the growth shows up. That's when the magic shows up. But when you're resentful, it's just going to harbor and create more resentment, and you really have to check yourself if that's the case, right? Because not only are you going to be miserable, but you're going to make your partner miserable as well.
No, I agree. And I mean, if we're talking the topic of joy,
Hmm.
gratitude is number one.
Yeah.
And start simplicity. Like I can tell you, when I wake up, and there have been times where I felt rushed, and I don't do this practice,
Yeah.
something can come up throughout the day that normally wouldn't have an impact on me will have a big impact on me when I come home and in
Right.
my
Right.
relationship.
Right.
So you literally have to wire yourself for happiness,
Right.
and gratitude is the way. So when you have spots or spaces in your day, whether it's when you wake up or when you're in your car or before you get out of your car and you're walking into the door, start thinking of the things that you're grateful for, that you have, whether it's your house and the things you've built together over the years, or the qualities of the things that they've supported you on.
Mhm.
Because, when you realize we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but how you spend is what matters the most.
100%.
And I always say this, and the fact that you have an impact on how much joy and happiness another person will experience because you chose to be with them, you have an obligation and a duty to
Mhm.
be at your best. And you can do that with gratitude.
100%. I agree with you. So I think our words to you is choose joy over resentment, hate, anger. Truthfully, like we have said before, those other characteristics or feelings can breed so many things within yourself that you don't even know. And it's in the knowing what you can do to help yourself, truthfully. And that's where you get out of your head. Get out of your head. Get out of, knowing that you think you're right. Well, maybe you're not right. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe what you've been doing all along is wrong. you know, Try something different. Try something different. See if it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are struggling, you need some help, we have a coaching platform, which will be linked below. And I don't know if you're okay with this or not, but if any of you book watching this, maybe what we'll do is we can donate 25% of the proceeds to Underground Railway. What they are is it's a non-for-profit organization that frees kids from child
Mm,
slavery, organ donating, all kinds of things. So if you do book us, and you're watching this video, as long as you're okay with that,
of
we will
course.
donate 25% on your behalf and us, to such a great cause.
Absolutely. And on that note, this is going to end our broadcast for tonight. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and we will see you all next week. All right. Adios.